Pip actually lived with me on a sailboat with my husband and I and the kids. She's originally from Sicily, so I suppose if we can say she's a souvenir from Sicily, we would say that. But unfortunately, when COVID hit, we had sailed the Atlantic with Pip, and Pip got stuck in America because of COVID. It took a long time to get Pip home, probably about 7 months, which was possibly more traumatic for us than her, I'm not sure. But while we were in the States and before COVID, we had seen this most amazing and most beautiful dog food. And I vowed that when we planned to sail back to Australia. When we sailed back to Australia and got here with Pip, we would feed her this beautiful food. So obviously, humanity took a curveball and COVID happened. Pip took 7 months to get across America, get all of the approvals that she needed, and to find a flight that we could put her on. She'd gone halfway around the world, been looked after by all these amazing people, and now she was stuck. But once she got home, I wanted to feed her this amazing food, and I couldn't find in Australia exactly what I'd seen in America. Inadvertently, I suppose that's how we started to look at making dog food.
In today's episode, we're very excited to be talking to our new friends, Zoe and Pip from Pip Eats. Hello, thanks for coming.
Hi, Sherry. Thanks for inviting us. It is an us because there's two of us here today joining your podcast.
Absolutely. There's two of us here as well. You just can't see because she's on the floor. Are you kissing Mama?
Yes, that's not part of the deal, is it?
Oh, she can do whatever she likes. She's a princess.
She's the CEO. Yes, we'll get to that.
As she should be. Now, this young lady has got a very, very interesting story from a few years ago, which ended up being the inspiration for starting the brand. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, look, Pip does have an interesting story as far as dachshunds go. Pip actually lived with me and with my family, which was my two sons who were about sort of 4 and 8 at the time, by the time we got back to Australia. But she lived on a sailboat with my husband and I and the kids. And she's originally from Sicily, so I suppose if we can say she's a souvenir from Sicily, we would say that. But unfortunately, when COVID hit, we had sailed the Atlantic with Pip, and Pip got stuck in America because of COVID. It took a long time to get Pip home, probably about 7 months, which was possibly more traumatic for us than her, I'm not sure. But while we were in the States and before COVID, we had seen this most amazing and most beautiful dog food. And I vowed that when we planned to sail back to Australia. When we sailed back to Australia and got here with Pip, we would feed her this beautiful food. So obviously, humanity took a curveball and COVID happened. Pip took 7 months to get across America, get all of the approvals that she needed, and to find a flight that we could put her on. Qantas cancelled a number of flights that Pip was supposed to be on, but she has this beautiful story of human kindness, of people who didn't know us, who took her literally across America, stayed with her in LA, helped her get onto a flight not to Australia but to New Zealand, because that's all we could do in the middle of COVID. Then from Auckland to Melbourne into quarantine, as your listeners may be familiar with. Or dogs coming into Australia have to go through quarantine. And then the day that Pip came out of quarantine, she unfortunately, Melbourne went into lockdown. So you may remember that day vividly, being in Victoria, Sherry.
Yep.
We were in New South Wales and we still couldn't get her. She'd gone halfway around the world, been looked after by all these amazing people, and now she was stuck in Victoria. So my brother kindly took her with his 4 children and looked after her until we could finally get a flight out of Melbourne and into Sydney. But by the time we did that, there was quite a lot of people watching Pip's progress because honestly, there wasn't much news, was there, at the time? And so Pip finally did get home and come home with us after 7 months. But it was an enormous journey and a pretty stressful period for her and for us. And once she got home, we were joking she was our celebrity dachshund, because she'd got quite a lot of media attention. She was on Good Morning America and CNN and a whole lot of a chat show and a whole lot. But once she got home, I wanted to feed her this amazing food, and I couldn't find in Australia exactly what I'd seen in America. And then I had some other ideas known also around the environment, which was very dear to our hearts, having, as sailors. So, inadvertently, I suppose that's how we started to look at making dog food.
Beautiful. So once you started looking at creating your own, where did you start?
Yeah, that is such a great question because, there are people who have dedicated already their entire careers to this. And while I'd been a business owner for nearly 20 years, it certainly wasn't in the area of animal nutrition. And I learned quickly enough to realise that I didn't know a lot. And so after some period of sort of research, we actually engaged a board-certified vet nutritionist, double degree, etc., who had a really strong background and professionalism in making dog food. But our criteria was a little bit different to probably what most of her commercial dog food businesses are asking her for, in that we wanted it to be as close to homemade food as possible, but we wanted it to meet AFCO standard, which is, it can be quite difficult to do at home. We wanted it to be whole food. We wanted it to be portioned in a particular way, which was in little heart-shaped patties, which is extremely difficult to make and in commercial quantities anyway. And the other thing, which to do with her, but the other thing that was really important to us was that we didn't want to have any plastic in our packaging. And I scoured literally the globe looking for pet food. Treats is a little bit different, but pet food that didn't have plastic in the packaging. And 4 years ago, I can assure you there was literally nothing. So we spent, I think truthfully, almost as much time getting the packaging right as we did working on the nutritional aspect, because both of those things were quite tricky to do in a commercial sense. And I have had people say to me that if I had a background in pet food manufacturing, that I definitely wouldn't have created a product that was this high quality and required this much what's the word, sort of, fiddling and intimacy in the production process. We're not just churning out dog food, using some robotic extruder, I can tell you, in our kitchen. So yeah, so that's how Pip Eats was born. It was born literally for Pip, and it's developed for all dogs, although nutritionally, of course, any size dog can eat it. And it has no plastic in the packaging, and we're super proud of that, because I can tell you that in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, we were seeing plastic pretty much every single day, which is pretty sad. So yeah.
No, I agree, and I certainly understand the challenges you would have had finding plastic-free packaging. We're a plastic-free brand as well, so similar.
Yes, that's what we have in common.
Absolutely. So yeah, it's not easy. I mean, it's starting to change, but it's slow, and Australia isn't exactly at the forefront of it just yet. So there is certain packaging for some of my products I still have to order either from China or from the US, because it just doesn't exist here yet. But hopefully in time that'll change.
That's right. And look, it was a real surprise to me that we weren't at the forefront of this, because as Australians, I really genuinely thought that we, in comparison to many other countries that you and I would have visited, that we do care about the environment that we live in. We do care what things look like. We do care about behaving sustainably. And yet the packaging hasn't caught up. It has been explained to me that because we're such a small market, the cost to develop this for what is effectively small volumes for big manufacturers is challenging. And I don't know about you, Sherry, but I can tell you that the plastic, it's not plastic, but the bag that we're using, which is home compostable, to vacuum seal our product, I could buy 70 plastic bags for what I'm paying for one. So you really do have to have a commitment to it, and you really do need to believe that your customers care about it too, because it would be a hell of a lot easier to just whack a plastic bag in there like everybody else and reduce your cost and be more either more competitive or make more profit. So I think the industry in pet particularly is changing. I still think there are a lot of people that are talking the talk rather than actually stepping up and delivering. They're saying, oh, it's compostable, but it's industrially compostable, and there's nowhere to put it if you live in a particular local area, for example.
No, there's still definitely there's definitely a lot of greenwashing still going on.
You bet there is, yeah. And I really hope that will change in the next couple of years, and I really hope that businesses like yours and mine can set the standard for small Australian brands and use that as a really good differentiator to international lower quality products that are coming in. It's not just the food or the soap or the shampoo that you're putting inside the packaging. The packaging itself is also superior to what's from overseas.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. We're definitely on the same page there in terms of the best quality ingredients that you can possibly get, nothing added that doesn't need to be there, wrapped up in packaging that's also, good for the planet. Those were my non-negotiables from word go, which hasn't been the easiest, but.
No, it's not, because sometimes you need to tease them out, don't you? Those little locations and suppliers of these type of products, which means that you incur big freight fees and things like that to get them to your premises. So that's a subject I could talk about at length. But I think at the end of the day, saying, oh, well, we planted a tree or we donated an amount of money, I personally don't think that cuts it. That plastic, and I keep referring to it, but that plastic that's out there in the Atlantic Ocean, it isn't fixed by planting a tree or donating some money. We need to take plastic out of, much as we can, out of our
and the situation with plastic recycling is not fantastic either. I mean, it's great to use recycled plastics rather than virgin plastic, but there's still a really good chance it's going to end up in a waterway somewhere, or it's going to end up in landfill, of course, where it sits there for decades and decades.
Yeah, and I do see it as the role of industry, because the government response seems to be quite fractured to local governments and what they can and can't collect and all the rest of it. I think it's fallen to industry to have to lead the way on this and have to educate, and it's a whole other subject whether I think that should be the case, but businesses like yours and mine, we need to verbalise why it's important, because it matters to our pets as much as us. It matters to everybody.
Of course. Of course. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely it does. So tell our viewers a little bit about the ingredients that you're using, what they are, where they come from. Does Pip have any particular favourites that we need to know about?
Pip is quite partial to everything, it must be said. So she's probably not the best example in that regard. So I'll just give you a high level of the ingredients. We are buying weekly. Sorry, I've got a bit of a sweaty dog here. She might need to go in a minute. She's angling for the treat, so just off camera.
Oh, girl.
Uh, the ingredients that we use are literally Steggles chicken breast. Again, I'm not aware of another pet food company that's using Steggles breast as their primary muscle meat for their chicken. So we have cheeky chicken, which is that Steggles chicken breast with organ meat, which is super important for dogs. As I know you know, Sherry, in terms of the amino acids and that sort of thing that you cannot get from muscle meat. And unfortunately, that is the bit that is often missing from home cooked diets because muscle meat is gross, right? So that's a super important component of this. Vegetables. So we steam some of our vegetables for digestibility, like our pumpkin and carrot. And then baby spinach. What else do we have? We have turmeric. We have in all of our products currently, we have green muscle powder, which is obviously great for joints and inflammation. That's organic. We're importing that from New Zealand ourselves. And we have Atlantic kelp. That's not Australian, obviously, but that is really good for breath and digestion. Turmeric, chia seeds. So there's quite a few ingredients that go into our chicken recipe, for example. Our beef and our lamb, we have luscious lamb and brilliant beef. Our lamb is grass-fed, Journey, and our beef is also New South Wales beef. So these are cuts that you could literally be served. Well, they go onto our dinner table quite regularly, and you could literally be served at a restaurant. And again, we've tried really hard we have a different philosophy to some other pet food companies. We use named cuts, very carefully balanced by the vet nutritionist, and then made into these little heart-shaped patties that come frozen and you can defrost. So that's our core range of products. We've recently launched bone broth as well. Again, there's nothing in that other than the bones, the water, and a bit of apple cider vinegar. So it's really beautiful and gelatinous, really lovely for dogs, really great for fussy small dogs. And now our birthday cakes and our treats are in market as well. So we've spent a year and a half building a commercial kitchen. We're finally in, and that's really allowing us now to scale because we have more room. So it's a pretty exciting time, but it's been a long journey over the last few years to get here, I can tell you. Yeah.
Excellent. And you've got something new and exciting coming to your range very soon, I hear.
We do, yes. We're super excited about this because the palatability trials that we've been doing with dogs and with tasting and that sort of thing have been really great. So we're actually launching Emu as an AFCO standard, balanced and complete product meal for dogs. It'll come in the same heart-shaped patty. I think this is the exclusive, actually, because we haven't put it on our social media yet. But we have some retailers that are very excited about launching it with us, and all of our existing subscription or regular delivery customers will get access to it first. I think that's fair because they're our loyal customers, and then we'll have it on our website as a trial. But the beauty of Emu is that it's so lean. As you may be aware, emu oil is, in fact, you would be aware because of your products, emu oil is particularly sort of sought after for beauty products and that sort of thing, and has a lot of health benefits. So we're using the emu meat. We've got transparency in the supply chain, so we know exactly where it's coming from. and we're really excited about launching that in Sydney. So that will be just towards the end of end of May. We'll be launching that. And we've got another one coming later
Fantastic.
this year, but we're not to
Mm.
launch that one.
Now
There's
that's
more to
quite
come. Yeah.
unusual. I haven't heard of emu being sold.
Yeah, I believe so. I have seen a little bit of emu meat that's just in its sort of raw form, and I've seen emu used as dried treats. But this will be a raw, balanced, um, frozen product. And look, the thing about our meals is that they can be served raw or cooked because we don't put bone in them. So I think this is a product that even if a dog has never tried it before, it's a novel protein, so low allergenic, and it's something that you can introduce it to your dog raw or cooked. It's really up to you. So yeah, we're really really excited about that, and I think as the pet food industry moves more towards a fresh approach, I think, and I hope that we will see more products like this coming to market. I think emu is a difficult one for the very large players because it's quite sought after and there's not a lot of it available. So that, that's why you, in part, I would imagine that you haven't seen it around a lot. Um, but the industry is certainly moving towards fresh. And you can see that even if you walk into a pet barn these days, the freezers are getting big, and the aisles of food they're certainly not increasing anyway. Yeah. Mm. Look, we do have a number of retailers. They are primarily at the moment in New South Wales and now in Queensland as well. But our primary distribution really is home delivery. So we distribute now to the east coast of Australia, and for most customers where we can do it, it's free home delivery. At worst, it's a $10 delivery fee. But this is frozen, delivered to your door, and it's really important that we use really good quality couriers, and obviously there's a cost associated with that. But yeah, we're really, really excited about getting this out to customers who have fussy dogs, customers who have overweight dogs, customers who have uh, dogs with a lot of allergies, if they're indeed food allergies. I think this might be a really nice addition. And it's got some beautiful ingredients in it. We're using fresh peach in it, for example. Again, I don't think that's that used in. It's just a little bit. It gives a really nice sort of taste and texture to the product. Approved, that's right, exactly. And same as all the others, it's been developed by our vet nutritionist. So it's the first time she's worked with Emu as well. So that was pretty exciting for her. Yeah, yeah, thank you, Sherry. I should have mentioned that. So look, our website is pippets.au, and our socials are pippets.au as well. We do a lot of videos around the pet food industry and explaining how to read labels, what happens in the pet food industry, the pros and cons of regulation, really all about trying to educate people to better understand what they're feeding their dogs. And we're lucky enough to be partnering with more and more holistic vets who really understand the value of fresh feeding. Um, because recommending processed food as a health professional is pretty unusual these days, and some vets still are quite stuck on just recommending kibble. But we think that there is an opportunity, even if you still choose to feed kibble for whatever reason, whether it's from a cost perspective or whether it's because it's convenient or whatever, there is an opportunity to at least top that kibble with a fresh food. And I think if we can get more people thinking about that and realizing that, then that's got to be a good thing for, longevity, health, everything for dogs. Yeah, I think so. And we've tried to make the heart shape only 90 grams, so it can just be used as a topper, and it doesn't mean that you end up overfeeding your dog as long as you cut your kibble back. So that's the benefit I think of crossfeeding. I don't think it's fair or reasonable to say everyone should be feeding their dog fresh, because everyone lives busy lives. Um, our dog is fed fresh. Obviously, we think that's the best thing to do. But I think there are horses for courses for different people's lifestyles for different dogs. Raw isn't always the answer, and that's why we create a product that could also be cooked. Um, so yeah, I think in consultation with your vet, you should be able to find a way forward where you have a dog that isn't eating too many carbohydrates, is a good healthy weight, and therefore is able to live their best life. Because I think that's what we're all about in this industry. Particularly the Australian businesses like you and I. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that sounds amazing. Thank you. I think we put the dog to sleep. I'm sorry, but there we are. Hopefully not. You are awake. Good. There we are. Oh, good Lord. Good Lord. Yeah, that's a big dog. Well, as the namesake and the CEO, I think she's sleeping on the job. But anyway, there we are. The rest of us are working hard to produce food and give Pip the best shot at the longest life possible. Indeed, indeed. And after all the trauma we put her through earlier in her life, sailing oceans and stuff, I think that's the least we can do. So anyway, thank you so much, Sherry. Great to talk to you. Thank you so much.